Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of TU Stories. My name is Adrian Battle Marston, and I am the host of this podcast. I work in the Office of Inclusion and Institutional Equity here at Towson University. And today we have a very special guest, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hey, I'm Tramell Anderson. I am a proud TU alum. I just graduated in spring of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
I have lived in Maryland for most of my life, moved around a little bit when I was younger, but most of my life. So proud Marylander as well. I went to TU for all 5 years of my college experience and have been a part of a lot of different orgs and clubs while on campus. And I'm really just excited to be here today. Oh, she, her pronouns also.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So you've moved around. Is Maryland your favorite place? You can say no if it's not, you know.
I want to say yes, only because
Okay.
Maryland's versatile. Now, different counties I like better than others, but
Oh, we
yeah,
getting into it.
yeah.
Are
But
you are you a PG County kind of person?
so I previously felt conflicted about answering this question because I was a PG from like first grade until like seventh, like not
Uh,
consecutively, but so I like that's home in a lot of respects, Laurel.
mhm.
But honestly, I'm more of a Baltimore County type of person.
Oh,
I
okay,
really like
okay.
Baltimore. It's easy to move about. If I want to go into the city, I can come back
Yeah.
home, can. Yeah. No hate to PG though, but I do like PG better than Howard County. Yeah.
Honestly,
So
moving to Maryland was such a trip for me because I had a lot of friends at my alma mater that were from Maryland. And that was the first time I had seen like people rep their state
Mhm.
that hard. Like I feel like people are like, yeah, I'm from LA, I'm from Chicago, I'm from New York City, I'm from Philly. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But they're like, nah. I'm not just from Laurel. I'm from Maryland. They
Yeah.
had the Maryland socks. They had Maryland like hoodies and sweatshirts. And then I move here and then I'm like, not only do y'all rap Maryland so harsh, y'all are like down to the county level, which is
Yeah.
this is the first time I've ever talked with any like group of people where they're like, yeah, I'm gonna rep my county. We're like,
Mhm.
yeah, I bangs with PG County, but like Howard, maybe not so much, or like Baltimore County, but like maybe not. So like this
Yeah.
that is probably like the most fascinating thing about Maryland so far that I find so funny.
Yeah, I definitely have heard that before. Someone's mentioned to me that like they never encountered like people get into the counties, but
Yeah.
it's like us against other states, it's us against everyone else. But once we get in state, it's like, okay, now what county are you from?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
even
yeah,
at
yeah, yeah.
Towson, like, oh, you from Moco? Oh, yeah, okay, okay,
What is
cool.
that? Montgomery County?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Look at me learning my terms, yo. Oh, so you are recently graduated.
Yeah.
Is the shock, is that has that worn off yet? Or are you still feeling like I still feel like a kid?
So in some ways, I'll just wake up in the mornings. I'm like, okay, now at what point did I gain full autonomy over myself? Like
Oh my
I can just
goodness.
wake up and eat ice cream and no one's going to stop me. That just feels like I don't most days, but it's just like that shock is just like really settling in. First few months, even now, like I've had to kind of remind myself. I'll wake up and think I'll have like an assignment due, like, oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll be like, oh wait, you graduated. So just like those first couple weeks, that uneasiness of like, oh, like you got to do this, you got to do this, kind of get it out of that. I
Mm-hmm.
have deadlines mindset in that
Oh my
way.
goodness.
So that's finally wearing off, thank goodness, because I'm tired of scaring myself out of my sleep thinking I forgot something.
Yeah. No, a very valid reaction that happened to me for a couple of years actually, where like I had like literal nightmares of like a missed assignment or I missed a due date. And then I was just
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, woke up. Yeah, I know that for that last year is always tough. Did that
Mhm.
did that senioritis kick in? Were you like over it all, or were you like I'm good, I'm chilling?
So it was interesting. So I as I mentioned earlier, I did like 5 years at Towson because I double majored. It was just kind of easier for me
Mm,
to like spread that out over last year. Um, but it was like it kicked in like the fall. So like my fourth year, I had it way worse
mm,
than my fifth year. Um,
really?
yeah, so it was just like, ooh, like I don't know how that happened. But like my fifth year, it was there. Like some days I'm just like, oh my goodness, like again, like, but one more day, one more day. I just kept telling myself that until May 26th. And I was like, okay, this is the last day. We're out of here.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, the senioritis is real though.
it's
It's so
serious.
real.
It is so serious, man. I do not recommend this for any student that is listening or watching. Please, I'm just sharing this just to add perspective and context.
Yeah.
I do not condone my behavior. My senior year, I was so over it. I had already I was like offered a position somewhere.
Mhm.
And so in the back of my mind, I was like, none of this even matters. Like I knew that like I already had something next, right?
Mhm.
And so I had this online class, and at the time I had like an A minus in it, right? And so
Mhm.
I literally did the math, or I was like, all right, what's the lowest I can score on final where like I could still pass it like a C, and I'm like, like I'm good.
Mhm.
So I went into that exam, and for some virtual, it might be different now, but there were times where online classes you had to go into like a physical location and then
Mhm.
log onto the computer with like a moderator in the room. I think now they may have like some software where it kind of blocks you from going to other browsers and stuff. It like
Mhm.
super tech savvy stuff. But anyways, so I go in there and I'm like answering the first few questions. I literally remember that moment where I was like, I genuinely do not care about this test that I'm currently taking. And so I guessed all of the remaining answers and then just walked out. Afterwards, I saw some of my friends like, damn, Adrian, you studied your ass off for that test. And I'm like, mm-hmm. Walked away. Did not care. I said, I'm good. That's how bad it was for me. So I listen, I understand that it can get tough because you're just so over it.
Mhm.
College can wear a person out sometimes.
It really can. That's so real. Like, sometimes you got to put you first, and I
You
get
know what
that.
I'm saying?
I
You know what
definitely
I'm
get
saying?
that.
That's where I was
Kind
like,
of.
C's get degrees for sure. Like,
Oh, listen, that was the slogan of the last year. I'm
I'm
not
gonna stand
gonna
by
lie.
that.
No, I definitely get that. Like, um, early on in the semester, kind of figuring out like, okay, this is if I do well, if I start off strong, the
Yeah.
final won't even matter. Like, I love
Mm-hmm.
classes like that because
Mm-hmm.
that anxiousness towards the end of the semester was like, oh, I have to get this grade or something to that
Right.
effect. And it's just like,
Right.
you know what? I got to put my piece first. And I think maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's why the senioritis didn't hit as hard my fifth year because I'm like, you know what? I'm almost here. Let's not
Yeah.
fumble the ball, but you got the ball. Don't worry. You're going
Right.
to make
Right. Right. Right.
it. So,
Right. Right.
C's
Man,
get
that's
degrees.
real. Did you feel, were there any new problems that you have sort of become newly familiar with now that like, you're, I know you got like I know people say like you're an adult now.
Mhm.
Are there some things where you're like, I was not expecting this when I was still a student?
Yeah, let me think. There's a couple things. I was starting to experience this a little bit as a student, but now like fully stepping out of it, it's just like figuring out how to manage like the time that I have in my day. Like a lot of my schedule was surrounded by school, school, school,
Yeah.
then work, or sometimes work, 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 then school. But now it's just like it's school. Like I'm still studying. Like I try to still keep my brain going, like stay sharp in that way. But in regards to like right now I feel like I have a lot of extra time on my hand
Mm-hmm.
and figuring out how to fill that in. So it's just like, yes, I get to read as much as I want to now. I can take a walk outside. I actually enjoy the weather.
Yeah.
It's like, in a way, it's like a whole new world. But I also kind of realized that everyone's post-grad experience is so different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was kind of like nervous because I know a lot of people that like I'm close to have shared that like they just don't know what to do afterwards. I feel like they have too much time on their hands, and I could kind of relate to that. But then I was also just like,
Yeah.
you know what? And maybe it's because I didn't stop working, but in other ways, I was just like, oh, well, I do have a lot of time on my hands, but I actually kind of like this.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was worried of like having a constantly busy schedule and now a significant chunk of my schedule being removed from it. I hope I'm answering your question.
No,
But
you are. You good.
so I think like really getting a new perspective on time. I know oftentimes it's like, oh, I wish there was more time in the day. I felt that so much during my undergrad experience.
Yeah.
Um, but now I'm like, oh no, I just need to figure out how to what's the word? Like space everything out
Uh-huh.
accordingly, I guess.
Are there any challenges where you're like, yeah, I'd be all right to not have to deal with this?
Challenges. Let me think. As in like post grad?
Yeah.
Okay. Challenges. You know, I guess rent. I had to pay rent while in undergrad too, but like every month it's just like I'm working so hard
Oh my
and
gosh.
I'll see these little memes on like Instagram where it's like, okay, one thing could be $1 for the rest of your life. You could pick one thing to be $1 for the rest of your life. What would it be? I'm like, rent, please. Like
100%.
I appreciate having shelter. It's a very fortunate. I'm very ever so grateful for that. But I'm just like, dang, every month, we don't get to
For
skip.
real though,
We
it's
don't
also
every
like
month.
Maryland is not always the most affordable place.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Man, when that rent gets taken out of my account, I feel it. Like that's real pain.
Yeah, agreed. And then I guess another challenge would also be like resetting or redefining like my boundaries. Like I think
Mm,
while in school, I'm I really love like I feel like I'm a people person. Like I love interactions. I love talking with friends, family, even people like new people, meeting new people. um, but I think while I was in school, I'll have like kind of people more respective of the time, like, okay, she's in class, or okay, like she's doing homework, like let me give her some time before I call her back or something like that. But then
yeah.
realizing that like I think now because I'm currently out of school, um, some people feel like that's automatically more time for them to, like for me to be able to share with them. And in some respects, yes, but it's not a free for all either. Like in having more time now, I would like to be able to take more time to pour into me rather
Mm,
than pouring to everyone else. Love, love, love my family and my friends. But I guess the word, I don't want to use respect because it sounds like if it's not respect, then it might be disrespect. And it's
yeah.
not quite that either. I just think like it's a learning process. I want to more so phrase it as. In realizing that just because I'm not in classes right now doesn't mean that I have like all this open time all of a sudden.
Mm,
Like, so I think that's something that it's been challenging. It's been like a good challenge, hasn't been like super stressful. I've had
yeah.
to be more comfortable in saying, like, no, I need time. Like, it's been a really good process, but that has been a challenge that kind of crept up on me in a way. I was like, okay, I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting this. No, thank you. Mm-hmm.
And while you were a student, you were involved with student success programs.
Mm-hmm.
So for people who like they will hear the pitch that like Tammy, Aaron, me, Ria, we give like at these tables, right? Where like a parent comes in and they're like, all right, sell me why I should bring my kid here.
Mm-hmm.
But to sort of hear it from you who's sort of gone through it, what what was that experience like for you to sort of be involved in SSP? Like, were there any voids that it filled? Did it help you in ways that you probably wouldn't have considered? Like, what was that like for you?
Oh my goodness, I love this question. So I guess to start off, actually, I have my Sage shirt on today, the Sage experience.
Okay, talk to me.
Yeah, rep, gotta represent. So I guess for starters, when I chose Towson, Towson was really like, I applied to like 10 schools. And Towson was one of two that was in the state of Maryland. I came here because of money. And then
Yeah.
I had a couple of friends from high school that came here. I was like, okay, there's some sense of if I'm struggling to meet people, I already kind of have a starting point. When I picked my housing, I was trying to figure out, I wanted to be placed in Tower D. And they told me, okay, if you hit Global Village for your learning community, you'll get put in Tower D. And then there was like a backup if you didn't get put in there. And it was like Sage. I was on the phone with my friend. I said, what's Sage? She said, oh, it's a mentor program. You get to live with your like mentors. It's really cool. She mentioned that she was a part of it, but she just didn't live on the floor. And you live
Mhm.
in Newell. I was like, okay, well, I don't want to be in Pretty Man in Scarborough. So I'll put Newell as backup. I saw that on like TU Cribs. That seemed okay.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, I got placed in Newell. Didn't get placed in Global Village. Then I saw that I had two names on my roommate assignments. I bawled out crying. I said, what is the likeliness that I get a triple? My older sister, she went to Georgia State. She had a terrible experience with her roommate. I said, how am I going to do this? I don't know these
Mm,
girls. Super nervous. Didn't want to be in Newell. That one decision ended up probably being one of the best decisions I've ever made. And I didn't even want to be in the community at first. I was just
yeah.
more so thinking of literal housing. I moved in early. I said, okay, this is cool. That's a nice little perk. Didn't realize that there was a whole residential pre-orientation experience that we were going through. And at this time, Raf Wood is the visionaire founder of Sage and SSP programs was still here. This is before he retired.
Yeah.
And went through the whole week, getting to know my mentors, getting to know the other mentees on the floor. And I was super nervous because I'm a first generation college student. My peoples have not done this. They tried to help best they could, and I really appreciate them for the support. But FAFSA was one of the most stressful. FAFSA can divide
Yes.
families.
Yep.
I'm not gonna
Yep.
lie. You need
Talk to
counseling
me.
after you go through
Oh my goodness.
FAFSA.
It's a
um,
lot.
it's so much, and it's like we're looking at each other like I don't have the answer, you don't have the answer. None of us have the answers, and we need
Mm,
the answer by this day. So what are you
mm-hmm.
going to do? Um, it really helped me get my community, like find a community already in Towson. My roommates ended up being my best friends to this day. I literally live with one of them now off
Wow.
campus. And she actually was someone that I went to elementary school with. We kind of got disconnected, reconnected, and then the other one I didn't know at all. But Jade and Nada, those my girls. But got me involved when I was struggling because it's like when I would struggle in classes or really I only thought of college as an academic thing, but it's so much more than that.
Mm,
It's a social thing. You have to do like your own, like it's mental as well, emotional. And living on the floor really just helped me kind of keep it together. And it's like some of us, like with our mentors, they have a year ahead of us, so they have their advice and insight they can provide. Tammy and Raft have their advice and their insight they can provide. It really just helped me find my place on Towson and not feel as lost because I was so nervous. Because although Towson is only 30 minutes from where I lived in high school, not even 30 minutes, it felt like a completely different world.
mm.
In a lot of respects, it is or was. But yeah, it was a lot, but I really appreciate the experience so much that I wanted to become a mentor. So I became a mentor the next year, and that was a really rough experience. Or well, not rough experience at first. It ended up being a great experience, but at first, my first semester, I didn't do the greatest. Me and Tammy worked through a plan. She said, I know you have it in you. If you can get this turned around by the end of the spring semester, we'll let you become a mentor. My second semester, freshman year, I came back with a 4.0. Her and Raph was like, she did
Okay.
it.
Talk to me. Let's go.
Big 4.0. So it's just like, one in that experience, it was a motivator, got me involved. I became an orientation leader, got involved with my building council, became a community center assistant. I
Yeah.
eventually joined Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Lambda Beta chapter here at Towson in spring 21, so my junior year. And through all of that, like just knowing that I have that support in student success programs with Sage, my mentor, it just really made this journey so much more, not okay, worthwhile, yes, but it made it feel easier. It was difficult regardless because as you grow, growing pains is a thing. You're
Yeah.
going through this whole process, like change and growth is not always comfortable. It takes you getting out of your comfort zone to, evolve. And I'm so fortunate for it. And now I actually work for student success programs
Yes,
as
you
their
do.
administrative assistant. So I grew through the program, I grew outside of the program. And yeah, so shout out to me for an accident, like or just
Yes.
wanting to be a null. That's it. And shout out to everyone that supported me along the way. I've been exposed to so many different opportunities. Encouraged to go for things that I probably wouldn't have thought to go for. Like I had
Mm,
communications as my minor at first. And then I realized I was talking to my mentor. She was like, as we're sitting here looking at it, it's like a 4 or 5 class difference if you decided to make it your second major. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Let me think about
mm.
that. I went for the double major and now I have 2 degrees in 2 areas that I'm super passionate about. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a little long-winded, but
No,
yeah.
I love the answer. Do you think you would have gotten where you are, like, had you not gotten involved with SSP?
Mm. So that is let me think. That's a really good question. I want to say yes and no. So
Mm,
me, like my personal beliefs, like I am very spiritual. I'm Christian, so I believe in God and like I know that there's a path meant for my life.
yeah.
Um, so I think that in some respects, I would have gotten to where I am, but the journey may have not been what it was. It may have been more difficult, may
Mm,
have been more roundabout. I think that looking back now, there was a reason I had that as my backup. But yeah, so respectfully, no, I don't think I think that thankfully God placed me where I needed to be with student success programs
yeah.
to help me get to this point. Um, yeah, I think I don't honestly, yeah, I don't think my journey would have been what it is with Towson without student success programs. That's why I really encourage um, everyone to get involved. And if you're not sure where to start, to get a mentor,
Mm,
not even just because I'm biased because I love the program, but really because it's better to have a resource and not need it than to need it and not have it.
yeah.
And I
Hey,
just really think if you need, yeah.
that's a sermon in there. Hold on. Reverend Tramell coming with the word. Hold on now.
I try. But yeah. I don't know.
Man, one of the reasons why I try to champion SSP so much, because I feel like what kind of gets lost in like the diversity, equity, inclusion conversation is like what does it look like on individual levels?
Mhm,
You know what I mean? Like there's all these big terms, there's all this theory, and it can be a very large conversation, especially when you're like, we need to provide DEI
mhm,
for marginalized groups. But like in these groups, there are so many different histories, personalities, characteristics. How are you making sure that like although they have like similar identities, you're still recognizing like on individual levels, there's going to be
mhm,
like some things there that you have to consider. And I always felt like the model that you will have factors that in,
mhm.
because yeah, like just due to the nature of it, there are a lot of black students that go through SSP, right?
Yes.
So like the racial component is just it's kind of there, but there's also like on an individual level, like you've got these mentors that are like, I'm making sure that like that student's good. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yes.
And I've always loved that because it just feels like a model example of like, all right, this is what equity can actually look like,
Mm-hmm.
particularly on a higher ed campus. And so I'm
Yeah.
always a fan of it.
That's so real. I agree. Like that each one teach one type
Mm-hmm.
of but then it's also just like this is what we do, but it goes so much deeper than that. Like, what
Right.
do you need? I think that's always like that's a question. And I think that's also something I had to learn throughout my experience. I didn't used to want to ask for help. And I think that's
Mm,
also SSP and Sage encouraged me to be open and receptive to asking for help when I need
yeah.
it. Because it's everyone's going to need help. Like we can't go through this life alone. You're going to
Yeah.
need help at some point, I believe. And like that was one of the questions that I started getting asked as I got involved with Sage and grew my relationship with those within the program. It's like, what do you need? And I'm like, well, what do I need? Like,
Yeah.
I
I
don't
haven't thought that
know.
far ahead.
I don't know. And then like working through it, like, okay, well, what's concerning you? What's going on? Where are you feeling like you feel like you're maybe falling behind on, or where do you think you're doing well? And it's
Yeah.
just like, oh, by the time we done this 2 hour conversation, I done cried 3 times.
Oh
I
my
done
goodness.
realized that I'm doing actually good academically, but emotionally, I haven't taken a break in 4 weeks, and it's like, okay, let's get you connected with resources.
Yeah.
And that's something that I started trying to use in my relationships with people. Like, what do you need? How can I help you? How can I be of support to my mentees and to those around me? Yeah. So, yeah.
You all meet a couple times a week, and then you've got like a bunch of other events, other, like adjacent programs that sort of happen, like Man to Man, Gen 1. Um, when you were a student, is there a favorite memory that is like SSP related? I know there's probably a bunch, but one that you think of probably more than the rest.
Ooh, yeah. Oh my goodness. And I'm sure there's several, but the first one that came to mind was actually my Sage pre-orientation week. It was like our third day in.
Really?
46 of 44, 46 of us are mentees on the floor, 10 mentors, 2 RAs. Still kind of getting through the nerves of like being at school, kind of already starting to question, like, okay, like, did I actually really earn my spot here? That
Mm,
kind of imposter syndrome that I know some people experience. I know I experience. Um, but we were in our common lounge and then they brought out the karaoke speaker. And then next thing you know, everyone, a friend of mine, still a friend of mine to this day, Isaiah, he just started rapping. Like, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what's happening here? He started rapping, the mentor started dancing. I literally, and then next thing you know, it's a whole party in our common lounge. It's just us though. And it's like, we don't even know each other, but it feels like this can be home.
yeah.
And then listening to 1,000 miles. I can't think of the artist right now, but like if I could fall, that one. Like I'm like,
Oh yeah,
honestly, like we
yeah,
all love this song, huh?
yeah.
Like I
Yo,
love I
I
think I can love it here.
I need to know the science behind why so many black people love that song, yo, because
Right.
there's something
So,
about that track is different.
right. It's like that song is actually evolutionary, like
For real.
revolutionary. Yeah. So that was like a really good experience that I still look back on to this day. Like, wow, 3 days in, and I felt comfortable. I was so nervous about feeling like this could be a space where I could excel in. And kind of
Mm.
getting a foundation there and knowing that I had that community on the floor. 3 days in, I couldn't believe it. Like I was like, yeah, this
Wow.
this this is it. Yeah.
I love that for you.
Thank
I
you.
love that for you.
Mhm.
So, Jamar, as we sort of land the plane here,
Mhm.
I like to sort of ask a question here, and you can answer as much or as little in
Mhm.
terms of what you'd like to share. And we know that like this is just the first one of the first chapters in your story.
Mhm.
But when you sort of think about the work that you're involved in now, what would you say is your why?
That's such a deep question. I love it. Um, hmm,
There's no pressure here.
I guess I want to say my why, um, or at least the one that I think of most often is at a certain point. There's been several points in my life where just the right person being there at the right time, like being that helping hand or being that encouraging voice,
Mm,
is what helped me keep going. And I think that I want to make sure that I'm being, I guess I want to make sure I don't wake up every day thinking like, oh, I need to be this person for someone. But like if someone needs it, I do want to be able to be that resource that they might need or that encouraging word. I hope this is making sense.
it is.
I don't have I don't mean it like an inflated way of like having a sense like that inflated sense of self-worth of like, oh, someone needs me. But if someone needs me, I want to make sure that I'm there for them
Mm,
and able to support them. I think that I've been poured into so much that it's only right to pour into the next student, the next person, the next generation of people who also need resources and just help or just to meet a friendly person. I'm very big on kindness. Just kind of just, I guess, being kind and just, you never know you being in the right place at the right time.
yeah.
Always just being open to that opportunity. But like that was kind of a mix of different answers. I couldn't really say it succinctly, but
No, it's fine.
it kind
It's
of made me
real.
think of, yeah, something like that.
It's a real answer.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. And it made me think about this TED talk I saw. I'm not going to talk about it too much, like in too extensive details, but like that, it's called like the lollipop moment. I thought that was so cool. It was, I recommend if you haven't seen it, watching it. At least that's a personal favorite of mine. But
Hmm.
you never know how something that may seem so small to you was such a huge thing to someone else. So yeah, and that can
Mm,
be for good or for bad, but like it was frameworked in the way of like it being a good thing. So yeah.
yeah.
Mhm,
Tramell, thank you so much
mhm.
for taking the time to chat with me.
Thank you. This was
All
amazing.
always pleasure to chat. So it was an even better experience to get to know a little bit more about your story as well.
Thank you. I
Yes,
appreciate
absolutely.
the opportunity. Thank you
For
so
sure.
much.
For sure. For sure. And for those of you that are watching or listening, we want to thank you all so much for tuning in. And if you wouldn't mind to hit that subscribe button on both our YouTube and our Spotify page. But with that, we want to thank you all, and we will see you all next time. Peace out.
Period.